He noticed the silence first. Not the comfortable kind that settles after a long day, but the kind that feels staged, as if the house were holding its breath. The porch light was on even though it wasn't dark yet. His parents' car sat in the driveway, angled carelessly, like they'd come and gone in a hurry. He set his keys down, hung his jacket, and walked toward the back office without quite knowing why. Habit, maybe. Or the faint sense that something had shifted while he was gone. The safe door was open. Not cracked. Not forced. Open the way it would be if someone expected him to find it that way. He stood there longer than most people would, eyes scanning shelves that were suddenly too visible. The envelopes were gone. The backup cash. The documents he kept separate from the bank for reasons he'd never bothered explaining to anyone in the family. He didn't swear. He didn't sit down. He just closed the safe carefully, as if the problem might resolve itself if the ritual were completed. "Don't make that face," his mother said from the doorway. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, a faint smile already in place. The smile was familiar. It was the one she used when she decided something was settled and expected agreement to follow automatically. "Your sister's tuition was due," she said. "You weren't answering your phone." He turned to look at her. Then at his father, who appeared behind her, nodding like this was all self-evident. "You'll thank us later," his father added. Family helps family. There it was. The phrase that turned actions into absolution. He waited a moment longer than necessary, testing something internally. Anger arrived on schedule, but it wasn't loud. A checklist forming. "How much?" he asked. His mother waved a hand. "Enough." He nodded once. Slowly. The nod of someone filing information, not conceding it. "We'll see who thanks who," he said. They mistook his calm for acceptance. He could tell by how his mother's shoulders relaxed, how his father exhaled, already moving on to the next topic. The house resumed its rhythm. Dinner plans. Weekend logistics. No one noticed that he went upstairs early or that he locked his bedroom door for the first time since he'd moved back temporarily. That night, he didn't sleep much. Not because he was spiraling, but because his mind was busy assembling timelines. He pulled up records on his laptop, account movements, old emails, agreements his parents had forgotten existed because they'd never bothered to read them in the first place. The money wasn't just savings. It was allocated. Documented. Earmarked. He'd been careful in ways they'd always teased him for. By morning, the decision wasn't emotional. It was administrative. The first sign came from his sister. She burst into the kitchen mid-call, voice already raised, panic leaking through her confidence. "They're saying there's an issue," she said into the phone, then hung up and stared at him like he'd suddenly become relevant. "Did you do something?" He poured coffee. "Let it brew fully before answering." "I corrected something," he said. Her confusion sharpened into accusation. "You can't just—" "Mom said it was fine." "Dad said?" He looked at her then really looked. She wasn't cruel. She was accustomed. Accustomed to nets appearing beneath her without her having to ask who built them. Down the hall, their mother's voice rose next. Not in anger yet, in disbelief. The sound of a plan encountering friction. By noon, the house was no longer quiet. Phones rang. Doors closed harder than necessary. His father paced, hands clasped behind his back, rehearsing arguments aloud to no one in particular. When the call finally came, the one that mattered, it wasn't dramatic. No threats. No raised voices. Just a clear explanation from someone who didn't know them and didn't care about family dynamics. Unauthorized access. Misappropriation. Documentation received. Process initiated. His mother sat down hard at the dining table when she heard. The smile was gone. Her hands shook as she tried to dial a number that wouldn't fix this. "You didn't have to do this," she said when she found her voice again. "We're your parents." He didn't respond. There was nothing to add that wouldn't dilute the point. The sister cried then, loudly. Not for the money, exactly, but for the sudden exposure to consequence. Her education, so abstract yesterday, now felt fragile, conditional. By late afternoon, his father's posture had changed. The man who'd always spoken in certainties now moved carefully, like someone navigating unfamiliar terrain. "Let's talk," his father said, lowering himself into a chair across from him. "What can sort this out?" "There's nothing to sort," he replied. "It's already in motion." That was when his father stood up again. When words failed, pride followed. He dropped to his knees. Not theatrically, awkwardly. Like someone who hadn't imagined himself there and didn't know what to do with his hands. "Please," his father said. "You're gonna ruin us?" The word ruin hung between them, heavy and imprecise. He felt something then, not satisfaction, not triumph, but a kind of distance opening. The clear view that comes when illusion finally steps aside. I didn't take anything, he said quietly. I didn't accuse. I didn't exaggerate. I just told the truth. His mother sobbed behind them, not loudly, not convincingly. It sounded like grief mixed with fear. Fear of being seen accurately. Call them, his father said. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. He shook his head once. Misunderstandings require consent, he said. I didn't give mine. He left the house before dinner. The sky had turned the color of old paper, the day folding itself away. He drove without music, letting the quiet do its work. In the days that followed, things didn't explode the way people expect in stories like this. There were no dramatic confrontations, no final speeches. Just meetings, forms, adjustments. His sister transferred, not where she'd planned. His parents downsized faster than they wanted to admit they needed to. They still called him. Less often, with more care. Every conversation circled the same unspoken question. Is this permanent? He never answered it directly. Some bonds don't break. They recalibrate. And sometimes, the most decisive shift of power is the moment someone realizes you were never as dependent as they assumed.